Hello and welcome to France 24. Welcome to New York. We're on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. And our guest today is the new president of Kenya, William Ruto. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
This is obviously your first UN General Assembly. You're not even 10 days into your presidency. But one issue of importance to you is the drought that's hitting your country, Somalia, Ethiopia. It's the worst in 40 years, probably, but the attention of the world is elsewhere.
As I spoke to the General Assembly about it, we have in Kenya alone 3.1 million people facing severe drought. They've lost 70% of their livestock. They've not harvested any crops the last 4 years. And it's really serious. In fact, it has forced us to reorganize our budget so that we can do more of relief, provide food, provide water, to alleviate the situation. Otherwise, people are faced with real grave danger.
Starvation?
Starvation, yes. And that's the case for the Horn of Africa. That's the case in Somalia. That's the case in many parts of Djibouti, all the way to Ethiopia and many of those corners. And we are facing this out of the real stark danger of climate change. You know, the discussion is elsewhere, yes, because of the issues in Ukraine, but I think there is much more danger. Much more people are facing real danger in many parts of Africa. And I say this with a lot of conviction because in Kenya, we have had to reorganize ourselves because people are faced with starvation. And this is something that I think we shouldn't now be looking at it as if it is something that is an emergency. It's beginning to look like the norm. Because if 4 years we've been here, the fifth year we are not sure what is going to happen. So it is something we should prepare for, not necessarily as an emergency, but as an order of the day thing.
You are also calling on international lenders to provide debt relief to your country, but to Africa because of the pandemic, the crisis, the food security crisis, the energy crisis. What exactly are you calling for?
You know, G20 already worked with some countries to write off some of their debts. What I am calling for is a deeper understanding of what is happening to our economies. Because from the pandemic, you come to very high food prices, very high cost of living, the war in Ukraine that has changed the whole dynamic about supply of grain, about supply of fertilizer. And then you have this drought. So it is a real serious situation, and many economies cannot handle that whole package of challenges. And that is why it is important, because many countries, including Kenya, have to relook at our budget, even take money out of education, take money out of health, take money out of water, to go and deal with challenges of famine, to deal with the challenges of starvation by citizens because of effects of climate change.
How much do you need, Mr. President?
We are looking at about 80 billion Kenya shillings for the short term, 86.5 billion shillings for the short term. And we are looking at almost 500 billion shillings in the long term. And that's just for Kenya. You know, if you're looking at the Horn of Africa, if you're looking at every other place where you have that challenge, that's why I'm saying this is no longer a country-by-country challenge. This is becoming a multilateral challenge. And therefore, multilateral institutions, multilateral lenders, the G20, the Security Council, must apply its mind to this grave situation.
Mr. President, I want to get some of the regional crisis. The war is raging again in the Tigray region in Ethiopia. There's also Eritrea being involved. How concerned are you about the fact that it seems that things are turning for the worse once again?
We are very concerned, because that's our neighborhood. Whatever happens in Ethiopia gets to Kenya. We are the two largest economies in that corner, and therefore a faltering Ethiopia weakens Kenya. Mm-hmm. And therefore it's important for us to get involved. And that's why when I took over, I asked President Kenyatta, my predecessor, to continue the efforts of the processes that the process that has started, to continue the process that has started so that we can find a resolution of the conflict in Ethiopia. I have since had a discussion with President Ramaphosa. I have had a conversation with Prime Minister Abiy himself. I have had a conversation with Thabo Mbeki. And yesterday, I had a conversation with Secretary Blinken on the kind of framework and mechanism that we can put in place to address the challenge of Ethiopia. I am confident that under the AU framework, with the support of President Obasanjo and President Uhuru Kenyatta, and all other actors, we should be able to bring the sides to the table at the earliest possible opportunity, because that war is costing humankind. And that war makes the whole of the Horn of Africa a very slippery and very dicey place.
You mentioned President Kenyatta. People were very surprised that you appointed him as an envoy to Ethiopia, also DRC, given the bitter rivalry between you two. Why did you do this?
Because I'm different.
Than he is?
And I believe that President Kenyatta brings value to the processes in Ethiopia and in DRC. And what was there between me and him was a competition. And it was not even a competition. It was not even a competition between me and him. It was a competition between me and the person he supported. And being a democracy, we are mature enough to understand that we can compete, but we don't have to be enemies. We can compete and still become compatriots. And precisely that is why I think, because President Kenyatta brings value to the process in Ethiopia and DRC, he should continue to provide that process. He should continue to provide leadership. Having supported me or not supported me notwithstanding, because that's a process that is past. I am now president. I am the person in charge. When things fall apart, it will stop at my desk. And I want the best for my region. I can only be effective in doing what the people of Kenya want if the region is not a problem. If somebody else can help me with the regional issues so that I can concentrate my energy and effort and time on sorting out the issues Kenyans want me to do, I think that's the right decision.
Right. Speaking of regional issue, Kenya has been involved directly. Somalia. Kenyan troops have been there 15 years, I believe. There's no horizon for bringing them back. Al-Shabaab continues to issue threats. You're now the president. You're now in charge. Can you tell the Kenyan people when those troops will come back? Are you saying they'll stay there as long as we need them there?
Those troops will come back home as soon as we're done with the assignment that we have in Somalia.
15 years, Mr. President.
It's been 15 years. I appreciate. We've been there with many partners. I think there is light in the horizon. I think with the election of President Hassan, who I have met twice now, he has a much more clearer view of where we need to go. I think he's more committed to fighting Al-Shabaab, and his resolve is clear to many of us who are in that space. We are working with partners, including the US, including other partners that are involved in Somalia, so that we can stabilize Somalia. An unstable Somalia leads to a very dangerous situation for all of us. It breeds terrorists, it breeds instability, and it affects Kenya.
So you're not giving a date for Kenyan troop withdrawal?
The people of Kenya, the people of Kenya want us to do it yesterday, but they also appreciate that our being in Somalia is not necessarily because of Somalia. It is much more because of Kenya.
Just the last question. I want to clarify something. After your recent swearing in, you tweeted that Kenya had rescinded recognition of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. The tweet was then erased. The foreign minister said, no. So I just want to clarify, was it a blunder, or does it indicate that Kenya could be shifting this position, which is obviously a sensitive one for Morocco and for the whole neighborhood?
Kenya's position has always been and will continue to be the UN position, that every aspect of relationship between Sahrawi, Morocco, and the whole of that region will be determined in a manner that respects democratic credentials. So our position is in tandem, and we haven't changed.
So that tweet was an error?
Is in tandem with the UN position.
So you're saying nothing has changed?
No position has changed.